Welcome to the second episode of the Seize Initiative podcast. I am your host, Matt Bailey, along with my co-host, Evan Bulleris.
Hey, how's it going?
And we are going to start a series and talk about my favorite army in the game, faction actually in the game, and that is Chaos. Chaos is the first army I ever started playing, and I know Evan has also dipped into that a little bit. And we're going to break this up into certain sections because Chaos in general is a huge faction in the game. And we're going to talk about my favorite part of the faction, my favorite Chaos God, which is Tzeentch. And so we're going to go over 1,000 Suns and then Tzeentch Demons. And then going forward, we'll do Nurgle, Khorne, Slaanesh, and then General Chaos. And then maybe even Knights and Death Guard. Don't forget about Death Guard. So we'll talk about all that, and then also that new what is it called? The new Fabius Beyal. He's coming out. I can't wait. I've always loved Fabius Beyal. I don't know if you saw that, Evan, or not.
No, I didn't.
It's amazing. That model, they did such a good job on it. I really like it. So Fabius Beyal was a guy I think he's part or was part of the Emperor's Children. So he's Slaanesh. And okay. he's like their apothecary in a way, but he takes gene seeds and like mutates them. So he's the Chaos Apothecary.
Gotcha. Okay.
So long ago I tried to do an army based off of him, but it was too hard because I'm a competitive player, and it was just like just beating myself up. It looked cool, but no, it wasn't that. But we're not here to talk about Slaanesh. We're here to talk about Tzeentch today. And I'm super excited for this episode. We'll talk about 1,000 Suns, and then we'll go from there.
It's only the third time we've recorded it, so.
Well, the first time it didn't really feel great.
Yeah, and the second time I just totally work's been keeping me extra busy, and then we use when we record because we're doing this whole quarantine thing. We use Craigbot for Discord, and he deletes auto after a week.
Yeah,
and it just totally slipped my mind, and I actually was looking at it the day you talked to me about it. You're like, hey man, how's that episode coming? And I'm like, oh yeah, really, yeah, no problem. Let me just go. And it was gone. I'm like, oh. So, but then I had the brilliant idea. I'm thinking, well, it'd be cool to watch something or be able to look at something while we talked anyway. So we'll have an audio edition, so you can either listen to this on wherever you listen to your normal podcast. So Podbean, Apple podcasts, anything like that. But you can also catch us on YouTube, and we're going to be using Tabletop Simulator to visually representate the fit model, so you actually can look at what we're talking about too. So that's a big bonus. So please, if you're listening to this on the podcast, awesome, cool, but we might be talking about stuff related to how the model looks. And you can go to our YouTube channel, the Fifth Trooper Network, and then you can catch this there. So we're going to start dual recording anyway, so you can even listen to our podcast on YouTube and get the stay of that and give us a like. That helps out a lot. But yeah, so we're going to try this. Let us know if you like this, if you want to keep doing this, because we're thinking about maybe even streaming some games during all this craziness, which would be really cool. And Tabletop Simulator makes it pretty easy to do. I didn't realize how easy. I knew the Legion mod was pretty self-inclusive, but it's only like one extra step to play 40k like this, and it's really not that big a deal. So maybe if you like what we're doing, we'll put out a how-to video on how we set this up like this and how we get the models. So yeah, that's my little bit on that.
Yeah, that's cool. Maybe I'll watch that how-to because I don't understand Tabletop Simulator yet, but I'll get used to it going forward during this whole quarantine. I need to get my games in. So last week I just cleaned out my basement, and I want to put a table down there. I bought some boards. I'm going to get a mat from the Fifth Trooper. I highly recommend their mats are great. I really like all of them, and you can use it for anything. You can buy the bars. I think I've seen those bars you guys sell separately as well for Legion, right?
Yep. They cut a 4x6 mat into a 3x6. You just lay them out, and that's a place to put your cards for Legion. But some other games will also use smaller mat sizes too, so they're good for that as well.
Yes, I agree. I like the way they look as well. I think I want that forest one. I think, or is it grassland or something like that? Or you have both?
Yeah, we do. We have a forest, a grassland, ice is some of our new ones, or Other Planet, which is very inspired by Geonosia from Clone Wars.
Cool. That's awesome. I love it. So yeah, I like the fact that we get a visual now for the models that we're gonna look at instead of me pulling up something on Games Workshop. And this way, like if you're like me, I'm a visual person,
Yeah,
and
me too.
I need to see it. I need and that's what I'll need to do with Tabletop Simulator to learn how to do it. I'll have to like do it myself so I can get used to it and be like and see what I'm doing. Just like with these models. So we'll bring the models into that space right there that we have right here. We have Magnus, and we'll just do that. Like Evan said, let us know what you think, and then we'll go from there. But first, we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about the Thousand Suns. That was the first army I ever started. It was the first. Back then it was just Chaos Space Marines, but the Thousand Suns were the first army I won a tournament with, and I'll always remember that tournament. We talked about it last episode briefly, but yeah, it was great. So yeah, we're gonna talk about all of Zine stuff. We might make this into a dual part episode, a mini series within the main series, if you will. And
yeah, there's a lot. So it's tough because like there's the Demons of Zeech, and then there's also Thousand Suns, and they can work together, but they're also two different things. So you could go play Thousand Suns with no demons if you wanted to, or you could play demons with no Thousand Suns if you so wanted to. So we're thinking about how we're going to do this. And last time we did it as one part, last two times, and I'm thinking it might be more digestible in two parts. But we'll see how it goes. Right? We'll see how our time looks, and because we've got some guests coming on soon that we've got lined up to play. With us and talk to us about the game because everyone's got time right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Time is.
I've been working on I usually don't paint or much that because I don't have a lot of time to do that, but I got into airbrushing and I've been airbrushing my AdMech lately, trying to find the right color I want to do that in. But yeah, nice. It gives me a lot of time for hobby stuff. Unfortunately, with this quarantine, I don't get to see people, which is my thing. I need to be in groups with people and see my friends.
Sure.
But it's always nice to do stuff like this. Like you can talk on Discord, or you can do Tabletop Simulator, or so you can just get that other human interaction,
Yeah, that's actually why I spent my first day off just reorganizing my whole office because I looked like a hobo. Because I had it went from work I didn't work from home at all to I worked 100% from home, and I was working a lot, so I didn't have time to really clean my room. And I was looking around, I'm like, there's just piles of, it's not like food or anything, it's just my game stuff that I just haven't had a chance to organize or put away. And then when I pulled up when I had to do a video conference with my team once, I looked in the back and I just turned off my video. That was just audio because I realized there's just stuff everywhere, just piles of stuff. So I'm trying to make it so at least if I have a video conference, I actually have it set up where I have one camera for work that points to a nice wall with me behind it, and the other's all my other stuff. So my copies of Raccoon Tycoon, the board game, and my models and stuff. So I can switch to if I need to be professional mode, or I can just do whatever with my friends. So that was my yesterday. But wow. But yeah. Anyway, so our first model up is the man himself, Magnus.
Yeah, the Primarch of the Demon Primarch now of the Thousand Suns, Magnus the Red. I believe in the storyline that he's the biggest, he's the tallest and biggest Primarch out of all of his brothers, and he is the one that's most with the warp. He's the psychic guy. He does so much in the lore of the story and the Horus Heresy and all that. But we're gonna talk about what he does in the game.
Yeah, there's a few books on him, right? At least.
The Thousand Suns in general.
Yeah.
There are quite a few books, Burning of Prospero, and the other one that goes with it. I think the Silver Tower, I think it may be one of those. I could be wrong though. I haven't read. There's a lot of fluff on him just in general in the Thousand Suns book, and also in the new Ritual of the Damned book that came out for Psychic Awakening that include the Thousand Suns. I believe it touches on what they're doing. They're trying to get Prospero back, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Make it their home world once again. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I didn't read much into that, but I think that was the gist of it. Anywho, we're going to talk about the game now of 40k with we're going to start with Thousand Suns and we're going to go right into it. So we're going to talk about Magnus the Red. Magnus the Red is a Lord of War, so he can only be taken in a Supreme Command detachment or a super heavy auxiliary detachment or a super heavy detachment. In the detachments, what they do is they give you command points for your game, and command points are used to be spent on stratagems that help you during the game, during certain parts of the game, certain phases. You have to use them at certain times. Like a lot of Thousand Suns ones, they're driven towards the psychic phase because they're a very psychic heavy army. But Magnus, he is movement 6. We're going to go over his stats and then we're going to know what he does and why he's so important in the Thousand Sun book. So his movement is 16. His weapon skill and ballistic skill are 2+, so you need a 2 or higher on dice to hit with his shooting attack, which he doesn't have any. And then his melee attack. His strength is 8, his toughness is 7, his wounds are 18. His attacks starting out are at 7, and then his leadership is 10. His save is a 3+, and then he has an invul save of a 4+. Invul save is when you don't get a save against something against a weapon that goes through your armor. Like
does that stop mortal wounds?
No, it does not. Mortal wounds go through anything unless you have like an ability that says, "Oh, on a 5+ you ignore the wound that you take."
Oh, gotcha.
Usually people call it like a shrug save. Like when we get into it, Nerdle has a ton of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so there's 2 different kinds of wounds you can take. There's just normal and then mortal. Mortals are like for realsies, hard to get out of, and normal wounds are something there are a lot more abilities to get rid of those.
Yes. So, like Evan said, mortal wounds just go through everything, and then you get your other saves based on different like weapons. Usually, mortal wounds come from like snipers, because on a roll of a 6, when they go to wound, they do a mortal wound on top of it, because they're hitting like a vital part of your body. And then psychic phase is where you take a lot of mortal wounds usually. And that's what Thousand Suns are great at. So they're perfect at dishing out those mortal wounds. And that's like the main part of that's the big shtick that they have, is pumping out mortal wounds in the psychic phase and targeting. They can even target characters. In 40k, you can't target characters if they're below 10 wounds, if they're behind, if they're not the closest.
Gotcha.
You can't target them. But if they're over 10 wounds and how am I trying to say this? If they're over 10 wounds and they're still not the closest, you can still target them because they're like so big and whatnot. But like Magnus, because Magnus has 18 wounds, he is great. Magnus can like make or break. You can actually Magnus is. I don't think he's a make or break. I think he just makes. I think he just makes your army better in general. He makes your game, because it takes like either Magnus is going to soak up all the firepower turn 1 and die, but it took their whole army to kill him.
Yeah, that's right. There's power pieces like that, right? Yeah. Like you kind of like when I play Legion, I want people to shoot at my tank, because the odds of it taking damage are lower than my infantry. And if it can soak a whole round of fire, that means my other units can fire without reproach.
Yes. Yep. I learned that when I played you. when I played the thing, I couldn't do any damage to it. I was like, okay, so all right.
Shooting at the tank,
right,
cool.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. Let's see if that can. No, it's not gonna take a damage. Okay, cool. But I played a game where a guy was playing like 3 super heavy tanks that can they're made to destroy things like Magnus or things like Knights, but it took all 3 of them to shoot at Magnus and kill him. So yeah, that's Magnus. That's what Magnus does. He makes your army pretty much better in every way, shape, or form. And there's more reasons than just that. What we just said about him taking up all that damage. He gives a buff, a 9-inch buff that lets you reroll ones for your psychic phase. For every sorcerer every unit within 9 inches of him, you get to reroll ones.
That's powerful.
Yeah, that's really great. So with psychic phase, you have to roll. Every psychic power has a warp charge value, and you have to roll equal to on 2 dice. You have to roll equal to or higher that number. So if you roll the equal to a number, the power goes off. If you roll like a 1 and a 2, usually a power like I don't think there's a power that casts on a 3. There is a power that casts on a 4, and I think that's an Imperial Fist, but that's all I can know of that's over 4. But if you roll if you have a psychic power that needs to go off on an 8 and you roll like a 1 and a 6, you get to reroll that 1 if you're within 9 inches of Magnus.
Nice.
And that's great. Rerolls in this game are just general and great. Unless it's your enemy making you reroll.
Yeah. Rerolls in this game and Legion can be viewed at the same as card advantage in a card game, right? Like in card games, generally the more cards you have, the better you're doing.
Yes.
The more options you have. In this, the rerolls are, you're not just stuck with the first layout of roll. So the more of those you can get, the more of those you can figure out how to get in your army is powerful.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. So with Magnus, he has a couple special rules besides that. In the game, there's something called Perils of the Warp. And when you cast a psychic test and you roll double 1s or double 6s, you perils. And it's either the power you tried so hard to get the power off and you just couldn't, because your brain went dumb. Essentially, your brain went like deadline, just gone.
Yeah.
And you'll take mortal wounds to yourself. And double 6s is like you did it so hard that it was just too much power for you. Yeah. But Magnus, so usually you take mortal wounds, D3 mortal wounds, I think, if that happens. Magnus here, he has a 2-up save against any mortal wounds that are dealt that way to him.
Oh, nice.
And I think there's only one other character that has. I think it's Eldrad. I think Eldrad from Eldar does too. And then he has Death to the False Emperor, which is on an exploding attack. So if you roll like a 6 to hit, you get an extra attack only against Imperium armies, which we'll go over later on further after all this chaos stuff is done. We'll go over Imperium stuff, but main thing right now is chaos. And then he has the Gaze of Magnus, which is a better smite. That's right. So smite goes off on a 5, and it does usually D3 mortal wounds. If you roll over a 10 with 2 dice for the smite power, you do D6 mortal wounds. Magnus's regular smite does D6 mortal wounds, so he doesn't have anything that's he doesn't have. Trying to word this properly. His regular smite is a super smite compared to others.
Gotcha.
His super smite does 2d6 mortal wounds, which is very, very, very good, considering he has a bonus to all of his psychic powers.
Nice.
And then his other ability. That's right. The bonus what I just talked about. His other ability is the +2 to all casting powers for his powers that he casts. And he gets +2 to deny the witch as well. Which is deny the witch is when your opponent does a psychic power and he rolls a 7, say average number, and you have an opportunity to deny that. You have to roll higher than a 7 though to deny his power, as long as you're within 24 inches. So Magnus, say if you roll a 7 and I roll a 6 with Magnus, he gets +2 to that, so it becomes an 8, and then I beat you. So the bonuses with Magnus is just great in general.
Yeah.
And he's worth every point.
Oh, easy.
Yeah, he's about almost a quarter of your army, but he's 445. So he's worth every single point in your list. It's a great model. The model looks fantastic. And I'm not one for his armor, really.
Yeah.
My Magnus is he only has his armor on his legs, and I think his forearms has his armor. But other than that, he's out there strutting.
Sun's out, guns out.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. Yeah. That's great. So I highly recommend Magnus to get for 1,000 Sun Army. We're gonna do that. What was it? What did we do last episode?
Oh, the try by trash. Yeah,
try by trash. Magnus is a definite buy. 10 out of 10.
Yeah. So if you're what the try by trash rating is, if you're looking to do Zeech, like you're like, hey, I think these guys look cool. What do I buy? Buy is just do it. You'll be happy with it, or you'll find a use for this unit. Yeah. Try is proxy it. So just put down like a normal model, or even put down like a circle of paper, just something, TTS, anything. Try it before you commit the money to it. So that way you're getting something you want, because there's no Magnus is what, 150? I think
he's $150.
Yeah, he's not a cheap boy. So, but there's other models like that are expensive and not good. So you could be putting in a lot of money and then being kind of sad that you got something. And we're not even talking like top tier competitive. We're just talking about generally, you're playing a game. You want to play casually, but you don't want to just get rolled over either, right? Like you just want a unit that at least does what its points are worth, and then if things go good, you win, cool. If they don't, well, it wasn't like, the model, like dice rolls, things like that, right? So, try is proxy it, borrow it from buddy, just use like another model to represent him. Something, give it a try before you buy it, and then trash is the model is
buy that.
Yeah, the model is it's not that it's like, how do I explain trash for 40K? Because the way codexes and updates work. As we talk about it, we wouldn't recommend it right now as of March 29th, 2020, right? Because Codex could change like tomorrow. Yeah, they could just be like, surprise Codex, this unit is now amazing. So as of when we talk about it, we wouldn't recommend it. But what's nice about 40K is, like, if you hang on to models long enough, like if you buy some stuff and you end up not liking them, you can shelve them and then they might come back. Yeah, right, like it's not out of the world for a model to be good later on.
Yeah, I've learned that the hard way.
I have too.
Yeah, but yes, with Magnus, it's an absolute buy. It's a great centerpiece model for your.
It just looks cool, man. Like, even unpainted, it just looks dope.
It's an amazing model to even build as well, and it's like the foundation. No, I wouldn't say the foundation really, but it's definitely like a structure beam for the 1,000 Sun Army.
Sure.
He is definitely, he's worth every single penny. He's worth every single point in the game. I would 10 out of 10 definitely recommend buying Magnus.
All right, what do we got next?
Next, we're gonna bring out the guy that's right behind him in the ranks. Oh,
give it a. Oh God! So grab him. Just let go. Grab one. Give him a flip. Hit F.
See, I'm learning.
All right. Give him hit F. There you go.
What happened there? They just like stuck together. Anyway, we're gonna talk about Arman. Arman is the next. Arman is the next guy in line of the 1,000 Suns. So Magnus is like top dog. Arman's like right there below him. It's kind of a big gap.
Yeah,
but it's like, but Arman's definitely top dog when Magnus is not around. Anywho, so Arman he used to be like the chief librarian of 1,000 Suns before they went. So now he's the chief sorcerer, if you will.
Yeah.
And he is my favorite character actually in the 1,000 Suns. He was one of the first models I ever bought. Back when he was metal, he was kind of a pain to build, but not that bad. Because he was only like 3 parts compared to like the old metal demon princes. I always think that thing was a pain in my butt to build. Anyway,
yeah.
So Arman, he also gets bonuses for casting psychic powers and denying the witch, what we touched on earlier. He gives rerolls ones for to hit within 6 while he is within 6 inches of other 1,000 Sun units.
Nice.
He has Death to the False Emperor, which we touched on, and then he has a 4-up invul, just like Magnus. His Warlord trait, I believe, is that he gets a +1 to his invul save, where Magnus's Warlord trait was he gets to cast an extra power.
Gotcha.
So they're both pretty good.
Yeah.
He knows the smite ability just like every other psyker in the game. And his smite does it's a regular smite, so it's D3 mortal wounds, and then he gets, if he rolls over a 10, he gets D6 mortal wounds. He's movement 12 when he's on a disc. When he's on foot, he's 6 inches. The disc gives him the fly keyword in a sense, so he moves a lot faster, which is better in my opinion.
Yeah.
But some people think otherwise. Like I know a lot of the top players that use Arman on foot. Actually, I just prefer him on disc. That's just my taste, though. His weapon skill and ballistic skill are 2, so he hits on a 2-up. His toughness and strength are 4. He's got 5 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 9, and a 3-up save. And then he's got a weapon called Black Staff of Arman. Pretty cool weapon. It makes him strength 6 in combat, so that's really nice. And it does a flat 3 damage, which is really nice. It surprises people actually, because they think of Arman as just being a sorcerer, so he's like a support unit really, and then he gets into combat and he's like, oh, it's only -1. And then they're like, oh, is that like 1 damage? And I'm like, no, it's 3. It does 3 damage. And they're kind of caught off guard. I remember playing against someone before, and he was caught off by Arman being 3 damage with his staff.
Sure.
It's a great looking model. The new plastic Arman. That model is gorgeous. And
yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, it's such a cool model. And he as well as Magnus he's like a structure for the 1,000 Sun army. He's a 10 out of 10 again for me. I just love Arman so much. I could be biased, but I think he's a total buy. He's definitely worth. He's only I think he's 166 points on the disc, and he's 131 points on foot. So nice. He's not that expensive. He does a lot. He does a lot of heavy lifting, kind of in the army with all the psychic powers he can cast. He can cast 3. So can Magnus. He can deny 3. So can Magnus.
I think my Arman's on a surfboard right now too.
Yes, he is. Just like that sorcerer that we talked about last episode.
Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, Sorcerer Supreme. But people like it. People love it. People think it's funny.
Oh yeah, it's right. The nice thing about a lot of these games, 40K especially, is some of the kit bashing you can do.
Absolutely.
With some imagination and some stuff, like you can do some funny things. So I wanted all my Zangors because I was going to buy a bunch of the Enlightens and put them on surfboards. I think I do have them like that because they're surfing birds, and thought that was funny. And then all my little pink demons, we'll get to eventually here. Like they're going to be have exercise gear because they're exercising demons. I thought that would be funny. Little basketball, little hockey stick.
Oh my gosh!
Right? Thought that was going to be really good. But anyway, Aramon's real good. Can confirm. Played him. He's one of the few units that I've actually gotten to play in my limited run of games. And he's just cool. Like he's got a lot of utility for the points he is. It's called bubble wrapping. So you put a bunch of like smaller, unimportant units around one of your bigger units. So because what Bailey said earlier was, you have to shoot the closest model. You can't just pick one out unless there's special rules for that. So
you can't target characters. You can shoot whatever unit you want as long as it's not a character.
Yeah. So you can throw like just bodies around him, right? And that way they have to shoot that before they get to him.
Yeah, usually I have a big blob of Zangors, or even now a big blob of Rubric Marines, or even what we'll get to later, the Pink Horrors. Right in front of them, because they're very durable. The 1,000 Suns are a very durable army, I believe. That's what Chaos, I think, is as a whole. They're durable unless you're like playing like the glass cannon list, which is like a ton of like bloodletters or something like that. I never played that way, but I think that's what Chaos like thrives on, is like surviving the whole game And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
they won't like they could like with turn 1, 2, maybe even 3, they'll kill quite a bit, but they'll probably get outnumbered towards the end of the game.
Okay.
But they can survive.
Sure.
Well, actually, I think yeah, I would say that. And sometimes chaos does outnumber, depending on it. Really depends on your list, how you build it. But I think the biggest thing about chaos is that they survive. They're
No,
very
sure.
survivable units. So Arman is definitely a buy for me.
Cool.
Great
I agree.
model. Very a good beginning, and he actually comes in the start collecting box. And I think the Thousand Sun one, even though I could be biased, but I think it's probably the best start collecting box that they have out there right now, just because you get Arman in it, and you get
Arman, Rubrics, and Zangars. Is that right?
Yeah.
And I mean, those are all like good, right? Those are all like objectively okay.
Yeah, like Zangors, they're okay. Rubrics are great. I think they're great.
Yeah, they're just cheap bodies, right? Just get them in there.
Well, the Zangors, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. So I think you should definitely buy Arman. Try to go for the start collecting box because you do save quite a bit of money by buying that box instead of buying Arman on his own and then Rubrics on their own and then Zangors on their own, because you'll need them all eventually.
Yeah.
And I think just start collecting box and then go based off that. What you can even do is you could probably buy a couple of them, those start collecting boxes, and then like maybe even mod the Arman that comes on the disc, because you can do so many modifications to your models, especially in 40k. So
well, that's fair. We could even do like because everything but Arman, you can have more than one of in your army in that box. Yes. So you could gives you a chance to make one on foot on disc.
Yep.
And then you're good, right? I mean, you can always magnetize it, and then we'll do an episode about that at some point. But you could doing that also just lets you do that, so it's not like it's not a feels bad like a unit that's just like a standing guy who you can only ever have one of kind of thing.
Yes. Yep. So cool. we're gonna move on. Arman's definitely buy out of our thing. We're gonna go next into another. We're gonna touch on. There's a lot of HQs for Thousand Suns, and next we're gonna talk about a Demon Prince, which Demon Princes are in every single Chaos faction, besides like Chaos Knights because they're just knights. But they're in every single Chaos book besides Knights, like I said, and they're great. Demon Princes are probably like if you don't want to get special characters, Demon Princes are definitely your next. Like you get them next. You get them instead is what I'm saying. The Thousand Sun Demon Princes are more expensive than other Demon Princes and I think Death Guard ones are as well, just because they get better abilities because they're in special codexes. Thousand Suns ones, they get to cast 2 powers instead of casting only 1 power, and they get a 4-up invul save instead of having a 5-up invul save.
Nice.
Great. So Demon Princes you can customize in a ton of different ways, actually.
Yeah, they've got I've put together one. It had claws, axe, sword, wings, no wings.
Yep. So you can give it wings or no wings, which I highly recommend you give it wings.
Yeah.
You can give it a sword, you can give it an axe, and then he has 1 claw at least, or you can give him the dual claws or a claw and axe, claw and sword. Most people, I don't think I've ever really seen the sword being used. It's cool. I build one just to have one, but competitively, I don't think people use. I think they go for the double claws because it gives them more attacks.
Yeah, just more dice. You're looking for 6s, right?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you're just looking to get that big roll.
Yeah. So Demon Princes, I believe, on the charge they have. I want to say they have on the charge. I think it's 8 attacks. Because they get 4 base. They get +1 usually for 1 claw, but if you have 2 claws, you get +3. So that brings it up to 7. And then on the charge, Demon Princes have 8 attacks because they get the Hateful Assault.
Nice.
Which all Chaos Space Marines get, I think, besides Cultists. And Zangors, I don't think get it.
They just don't hate enough.
Yeah, apparently. So, and then he also, Demon Princes of Zinj, actually all Demon Princes of whatever legion they're part of, they give reroll 1s, which is really nice as long as the unit is within 6 inches of it. He has Smite. He can cast 2 powers. He can deny 1 power. And then his movement is 12 when he has wings. When he doesn't have wings, his movement is 8. And you would think that 4 inches doesn't mean much of a difference in 40k, but it really does. Like, the faster you are, I think the better.
The whole game's a game of inches, right?
Yeah, really it is. Demon Princes, I think, for any Chaos army are a must-buy.
Yeah, because even if you don't want them for Zeech or Thousand Suns, you can just say they're for whatever. So when you buy one, you more or less get a universal unit that you can use in any Chaos faction or even in Age of Sigmar, right? That you can use them in just about anything for Games Workshop demons.
Yes. Or, yeah, Games Workshop Chaos, or I think they're, what are they called? Destruction, maybe, in AOS. I think Destruction's part of that. Or, no, it's Chaos. Duh. I play Chaos. What am I saying? It's a Chaos faction in AOS. They're great in 40k. I don't know how great they are in AOS, but we're not talking about AOS. We're talking about okay. So
yeah, unfortunately, it's like a whole different beast. So one unit may be good in one and bad in the other, extremely.
Yeah, like we'll talk about another unit when we get to the elites and fast attack part of the Thousand Suns, because we're gonna go in from HQs to troops to elites. We'll talk about Zangor stuff later because they're not great they're okay in 40k, but they're better in AOS, which is kind of crazy. But yes, Demon Prince. If you're starting Chaos, it's a general great first buy for any Chaos faction that you play. It doesn't come in any special box sets. It comes on its own, and I believe it's $40, which
I think so.
I think it's 40. It's great. It's a great start. The model looks amazing. You can do so much with it. Like I have a Demon Prince I converted, and I gave him a lion's head and then a lion tail, and it doesn't come with that. You can just like pick up like other models, like other. If you have an idea, you can for converting. You could probably look it up on Google and find some help towards that.
Yeah, somebody's probably done it before, or tried a similar thing.
Yeah, and for Chaos, I think converting is probably the most fun to do for converting your models.
Sure, you can throw tentacles on it. Like, hey, it's a demon, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So Demon Prince is also I think a must buy. I know that we're just saying must buys for the first 3 units, but later we'll get down the road when things.
Yeah. We're kind of doing the things we think are. We've already got kind of like a mental list of what we want to do. So the first few are going to be, well, the first bunch anyway, will be what we think you should get.
Yes. So we'll talk about these guys next, just sorcerers in general. I got another sorcerer right here.
Oh. Yeah, I got it. I got you.
Thank you. Still getting used to it. But so sorcerers. There are exalted sorcerers and there's regular sorcerers in Thousand Suns. Exalted sorcerers only exist actually in Thousand Suns, where there are regular sorcerers in all of the Chaos factions, unless you're playing Khorne, because Khorne doesn't do that. So Chaos sorcerers, there's a box set for an exalted sorcerer box, which you can build. If you build a sorcerer, you can call it an exalted sorcerer or call it a sorcerer. Doesn't matter. The only difference is I think exalted sorcerers hit better. They hit on 2s and they have 1 more wound, and then regular sorcerers hit on 3s and they have 4 wounds, and exalted sorcerers have 5 wounds.
Gotcha.
They all can be put on disc besides the Terminator sorcerer. A Terminator sorcerer has a better save. It has a 2-up save instead of a 3-up save. And they all cast, I believe, 2 powers and they deny 1.
Okay.
Sorcerers are like the main, like they are the big, like they support your Thousand Sun army a ton. Psychic powers in general. So if you can get more psychic powers on the board for Thousand Sun army, the better you are off. I recommend buying, if you go into Thousand Suns, I recommend buying the Exalted Sorcerer kit. You get 3 sorcerers in there that you can build, and it's amazing how much customization you can get.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. I built those. Yeah, can confirm.
Yeah, kind of confirm.
Can
I
confirm.
think you get like 6 or 7 different heads. So if you don't like the way it's built on the instructions, you can just do whatever you want, really. And then you can buy the Chaos Terminator Lord box, which is also a Chaos Terminator Sorcerer. And a lot of people actually use a Terminator Sorcerer just because it's cheaper and it's survivable.
Yeah, sure.
It's got a 2-up save, and it's good to like be in the back lines. It will be the slower sorcerer that can stay with your troops that don't move as fast.
Yeah.
So I honestly like all the HQs that come 4,000 Suns. I think are a buy just because they're sorcerers and they give more. They give more meat. Like it's a bigger beat stick.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Well, it's also like that's the factions thing, right? Is
yeah,
sorcerers.
powers. Yeah, that's their main thing. Are sorcerers, psychic powers, mortal wounds. That's their magic is their big thing. So that's all of the HQs, the leaders for the Thousand Suns that we'll go over. Next, we're gonna touch on their troops, and we're gonna talk about my favorite troop, the Rubric Marines. Rubric Marines are so amazing. Like everything about them, I think is great. Their point cost is pretty good now. They used to be a lot worse when Eighth first came out. They weren't being played that much, but now since Ritual of the Damned came out, they're pretty great. A lot of people are using like big blobs of them. And the amount of damage that they put out is great. Their bolters are special. They all have Inferno bolters. So a bolter is a basic gun in the game, and they have that basic gun, but it's a better version of it. It's a higher armor penetration value for their guns.
Gotcha.
So a bolter, usually if you fire at something, it doesn't so it has an armor. It doesn't have an armor penetration. So you shoot something, it has a 3-up save. It's gonna make a 3-up save. That's all. That's all you have to do. But if you shoot a Inferno bolter at something and you wound it, it does a -2 to your armor. So that 3-up then becomes a 5-up. So it's a lot harder. You just lost a third of your saving value. For whatever unit that you're firing at.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So rubrics are a core unit for Thousand Suns. They're their main troop choice, and they come with a sorcerer as their leader, and they can have up from 5 to 20 guys. Their movement is 5 because they're a little slower. They're literally just souls in armor. So they don't move fast. The only one that's an actual being like human, like a being inside the armor is the sorcerer.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think Full Metal Alchemist brother, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's what the armor. That's what the guys are inside the armor. That'd actually be a really cool paint scheme. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. So and they have upgrades for their units. Instead of the bolters, they can actually have flamers on them, and they can all have flamers. Even the sorcerer, he can have like a pistol flamer, but they're shorter range. They're 8 inches instead of 24. And like we said earlier, this game is a game of inches. So I think the bolters are better and they're cheaper too. So it's just overall better to have all bolters than any upgrades for the unit. The models just look amazing too. The whole Egyptian theme is just so cool.
It's really neat. Yeah, that's why actually they're my first buy for 40K because I just thought they looked cool. I didn't know anything about them besides I thought they looked cool. Yeah,
and the rule cool exists. It does definitely exist. A lot of people buy. I think a friend of mine, Bill, he just bought a ton of Beast of Chaos stuff, and it's all direct only. And
oh wow.
Yeah, so he bought. I don't think they're that good in AOS. They're called Dragon Ogres. He was like, I just like them because they look cool.
Yep.
So definitely, if you're all about look cool, go for it. But we're gonna talk. What we're talking about is like buying for the army, so you don't like get your butt kicked every.
Yeah,
single time.
just get straight. Like again, it's not top tier competitive, but at least when you buy something, you feel like you're, it's like decent, right?
Yeah.
It actually can like you can do something with it and not feel like you get rolled.
Yes, absolutely. And especially with all this, like, so all this new stuff that came in Ritual of the Damned gave Thousand Sons so many like cool tricks now with like the Cult of Time when they can bring back guys back, or the Cult of Duplicity when they can essentially bring a unit that's all the way in the back of your lines. They can push them. They essentially pick them up. You pick them up, and then they teleport.
Oh, cool.
And I love that the Thousand Sons got stuff like that. A lot of tricks.
Yeah.
That's how I like to play. I like to like have a lot of tricks up my sleeve.
Oh, sure.
For my army. So I'm so happy about the stuff that they got in Ritual of the Damned. That is also, so you get the codex with your army. Obviously, you get Thousand Son book, and I would highly recommend picking up the Ritual of the Damned book because you get all access to all those new cults, all those new psychic powers, all those new. So when you pick a cult, you get a certain psychic power that everybody knows. You get a certain relic that only the characters can take from that cult, and then you get a certain warlord trait for that cult as well that only characters can take. So it's great. It's a great buy. So also pick up that book if you're interested in doing Thousand Sons. So yes, pick up that. Pick up rubrics. They're a great buy. They're a must buy in my opinion. They're a 10 out of 10 for sure.
Cool.
And next we can talk about the other troop unit. So there's 3 troop units for the Thousand Sons. There are rubric Marines, which you just talked about. There are cultists. Well, we're going to talk about cultists in the general chaos because cultists are everywhere in every single book, just like demon princes. But demon princes have a special, unique style when they're in Thousand Sons. Cultists really don't have a unique thing in Thousand Sons, so we'll talk about them in other books when they have special things.
Actual different rules, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that at a different time, but we're gonna talk about the other troop unit, Zangors. Zangors are like goatmen, essentially. If you can take a look at them on the video that we have here, and
you say goatmen?
Goatmen, yeah.
I think they're birdmen, right? Zangors?
They're like half goat, half bird. No, they're both, but they're more bird. You're right.
Yeah, they're the birdie boys.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm thinking. We were talking about. I was saying something about Beast of Chaos. They're more bird.
Oh, Beast. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Because they're also in Beast of Chaos and AOS, and they're also in Disciples of Zinch, so they're in that as well. I just think of goats when I think of Beast of Chaos, but they're more bird than goat, which sounds weird when you really talk about it.
Yeah. When you actually have to like.
Zangors they're a blob unit essentially. I take one unit of them, huge blob in front of all my characters and whatnot, so they don't get shot at. So there's ways that you for Thousand Sons, like we talked about earlier, their main thing is psychic powers. There's psychic powers that do damage, and there's psychic powers that buff units. And usually what I do is I buff this unit so they're harder to kill. Zangors don't actually benefit from any of the cults that are in Ritual of the Damned, which kind of stinks, but I can see why they did that.
Sure.
To give some balance to it. But Zangors are a nice, cheap troop unit. They come in the getting start collection box.
Yep.
Start collecting box. Wow.
You're dying here. He's dying.
This quarantine, man, killing me. So Zangors, I would just recommend if you get that start collecting box, pick up 2 more units and boxes than yourself, and you'll be set. They're a try. I don't think they are a must buy. Okay, they're definitely a try though. I love them. I own 60 Zangors.
Okay.
So,
yikes.
So I definitely tried them. So they're definitely a try though. They're not a trash or buy, but try them out. See if you like them. If you don't like them, that's fine. If you do, great.
Cool.
So that's all that there is for troops. Next, we're going to talk about the rubric terminators, essentially. So
Okay.
there's called Scarab Occult Terminators. And they're, oh my gosh, I love these Terminators. They are fantastic. They come with a sorcerer, just like rubrics do, for their unit. So I don't know if they have the same fate though as the rubric marines, if they're just souls, if they're like the full metal alchemists. Al. But they come with a sorcerer. They each have 2 wounds, so they're bulkier than rubrics. They have a lot of shots, just like rubric marines do, and they can deep strike in, so they can teleport in. They don't have to set up on the board; they can just teleport right in at the end of a movement phase. So they're like an answer unit. Like something comes forward and you need something to deal with them, you can usually throw a unit like that into it. From the Ritual of the Damned book, all of their stratagems, which I kind of talked about earlier, they're towards rubrics and Scarab Occult Terminators. So they gave a lot of nice buffs to those 2 units, which is great because that's like those 2 units right there are like they're the foundation of Thousand Suns. And for the Terminators, I think you only need 1 big squad. So all you need to do is buy 2 boxes of them, and then you're set. And then you have a squad of 10 Terminators. Because I believe that you don't have to build another sorcerer in that box set.
Gotcha.
You can just build the 5 with sorcerer, and then build the 5 to regular Terminator.
I mean, you could always just like I'm sure you'll have bits left over from your last one that you can use for that one.
Yep, you will. Definitely for sure. They have upgrades to their units. They can have like a big heavy flamer, or I think it's a warp flame cannon, and then they have the Soul Reaper cannon for their upgrades for their weapons, and then they come with combi bolters, which also have those Inferno bolters in there. So I think it's Inferno combi bolters. They have a lot of shots. I recommend just making them simple and giving them their standard bolter, and then they come with a power sword as well for their unit. They're very bulky. Actually, like if you look at the models compared to other Terminators, they're not as bulky. They're more slim, and that's why I like them a whole lot more.
Yeah, they actually have a unique look, right?
Yeah, they definitely do. They also have an upgrade for their for a missile rack to be on the shoulders of someone, but I don't think you need to buy one of those either for your unit. I think they're just good as basic as you can be with them. Because of all the buffs that they get from Ritual of the Damned. I definitely think they're a buy for sure.
Cool. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I think I have 1 set of them myself, actually.
Yeah, I'd recommend building those if you don't already have them.
I have no idea. There's just a pile of like sprues. Who knows?
Yeah, I found some. Actually, I got some from a buddy of mine from I traded for them, I believe. Yeah, I traded for them. It was fantastic that I got more of those because I definitely needed more because I only had 5 and I need 10. But so we've said like almost everything in the book besides the Zangors are a buy. So we're going to get into other units that aren't necessarily like, I'm not going to say every unit because it's my favorite army is a buy. I'm going to talk about other units now that aren't as great, but they're good. They're okay. So we're gonna talk about the other elite unit that's specifically in Thousand Suns. It's the Zangor Shaman on a disc, and he's a psyker that gives buffs to other Zangor models within 6 inches of him. I believe that he gives a +1 to hit buff to all Zangor models within 6 inches of him.
Oh, that's pretty good. So he just moves up with a group of them.
Yep. Or we'll talk about another unit, the Zangor Enlightened, that he can move fast with them as well because they are also on disc. So a shaman has, I believe it can cast 1 power. It has, it can cast 1 power, and I believe it can re-roll its first failed psychic test. So it's not bad. It's an okay unit. It's just there to be like another buff, if you will. I used to play an army with 2 of these in my list, and then I had 2 units of Zangor Enlightened, and they were both shooty units. So but it wasn't great. It was fun. It was fun, but not great. That's for sure. So the Scarab, Scarab, the Zangor Shaman on disc it's a great looking model. I love the model, and you can use it in AOS too. That's the nice thing about Zoom stuff. Most of it, besides like the Space Marine part of it, like the Terminators and the Rubrics, you can
AOS
use
too, yeah.
AOS. So that's nice if you want to get started in this gameplay and you figure out like 40K might not be the game for you. Try AOS with it and then see if you like that one.
Yeah, it is like almost completely different rules.
Yeah,
way less dice. Different phases. Like so, it's that's why when I originally bought it, I bought with just Zeech Demons because I could do either one.
Yep.
Just so I was trying to hedge my bets the best I can.
Yes. Yep. I got lucky essentially because I didn't know that Zeech was in both game systems, and then when I started playing Fantasy, I learned that back in I think I played Fantasy in 6th edition, maybe 7th, and then it became AOS. And Disciples of Zeech, man, they are nuts. But we'll talk. That's a different. When we talk about Chaos Demons, we can maybe mention that a little bit. But the Zangor Shaman on disc is a try for sure. You can proxy him with like a Sorcerer on disc or wherever you see if you like it or not. It's an okay unit.
Sure.
It's not definitely a must, but you can try it out.
So do a try. Cool.
Yeah, do a try, definitely. And then we're going to go on to the next unit of Zangor stuff. We're going to go into the Zangor Enlightened. And then, so there's 2 ways to build them, the Zangor Enlightened. They can either be, shooty, or they can be combat. Their bows aren't bad. Any roll of a 6 to hit as an automatic wound as well. So I believe they're strength 5, they're AP -1, and they do 1 damage. So they're okay. They're not a great. I don't think it's not a lot of people play them. I'm the only one I think that I know that owns them in our local gaming area. So So I guess they would be trash.
Yeah.
Which pains me to say, but going after using them for so long and they don't do well. It looks so cool on the field, but they're missing something. I don't know what that is, but they're missing something.
I mean, again, like they could be good for AOS, but as of like we said, 3/29/2020, we consider them try to skip.
Yeah, they're actually amazing in AOS. The bows, they're really good because they do a lot more damage.
Gotcha.
So speaking of trash units,
next
is like I said earlier, like the cultists. There's a lot of that was the only fast attack unit in Thousand Suns that is specific to Zeech. So we'll go over that for the Thousand Suns. Now we're going to go over the only heavy support unit that are specifically towards Thousand Suns, and that is the Mutalith Vortex Beast. I used to own 3 of these. When the Thousand Sun book came out, I was like, oh, I knew it was coming out. I was like, oh my gosh, I heard that Mutalith Vortex Beasts are going to be in them. And if I'll buy them now, and my local game store, it had one on the shelf because no one bought it because it wasn't that great in AOS because it was only for AOS at the time. And then they came out for Thousand Suns. I was like, yes, I'll buy it. And I heard that they'll be okay. They are not okay.
They are not okay.
They're random. And that's the thing that like got me because I liked the adding the random factor into the
Yeah.
game. But oh my gosh, they are so bad. I played 3 of them with a ton of Chaos Spawn and a ton of Zangors, and then characters of like 2 Demon Princes and Arman. I was like, yeah, this looks legit. Can't wait to play them. Oh my gosh, was I it was so bad. My first game I played with them in a tournament, I was just like, why did I do this to myself?
I've made a huge mistake.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And you know what? I got rid of them, I sold them, and I kind of regret selling them because I just like the model a lot.
Yeah.
The model
Well, it
looks
feels
so
very
cool.
chaosy, right? Like
Yeah, it looks amazing for Chaos. And Thousand Suns are the only ones that get them. And I was like, oh man, I should have never gotten rid of those. But I mean, they're still trash. Oh my gosh, they are so bad. They have one stratagem, I think, in the Thousand Sun book, where they have a random table chart.
Oh no.
Where they do a buff to a unit or they do mortal wounds to the closest unit. But the range for their mortal wounds is like 18 inches, so it's really short.
Yeah.
So you can either pick one of the chart or you can roll 2. And then there's a stratagem, I think, that after you do the first one, you can pick the next one and do it again. But it's still not great.
Yeah.
If they made the range better for the mortal wounds, then maybe it'd be better. But
like I said, if you do have one, maybe it'll be better down the road. But right now, it is an expensive model, so give it a pass.
It's a hard pass.
It's a hard,
not even like a small pass, but
a hard trash.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it looks amazing. Model looks so cool, but it's so bad. Why GW? Why? They pulled me in and I couldn't get out. That's how it was. Yeah, unfortunately, that is the last unit though for the Thousand Suns that we're going to talk about.
All right, that's fair.
And yeah, that's fine. Like Thousand Suns, they have one of the they have the fewest amount of units in their codex compared to I think they're like second for fewest amount of units in their codex compared to I think this first is.
But it seems like quality over quantity.
Yes.
Right. Like it seemed most things we talked about were pretty much besides that Vortex Beast and the Enlightened. Anything you get is probably fine.
Yeah, I would say so. Even Cultists, you can get a nice cheap troop unit for your battalions that you make, but you're definitely for your detachments, you have to have certain requirements. So you need to for a battalion, it's 3 troops and 2 HQs, which is definitely great for Thousand Suns because all their troops are pretty good and all their leaders are really good.
Yeah.
So there's a Vanguard detachment, which is all elites. So the Scarab Occult Terminators, it's pricey, but not bad.
Yeah.
And there's a Spearhead detachment, which is all heavy supports.
Oh, gotcha.
But you're never running that because they don't have any good heavy supports. Same with Fast Attack. All they have are Spawn and Enlightened. And they're both not good.
So I think this will be part 1 for just the Thousand Sun specific units, and then we'll do a part 2 for the demons because we've got we're about at an hour here. And just to keep this bite-sized, an hour bite-sized, but to keep this digestible so you can scroll through something specific, we'll keep them at an hour. And then, so our next episode will be the demons.
Sweet. Can't wait to do it.
All right, everyone. Stay rad. I'm like, stay rad. Bailey, give your out. Do it.
Oh, all right, everyone. Have a great night. And try to enjoy this quarantine as best as you can, guys. Try to keep that human interaction with each other over Discord or whatever you can do. Just try to do that interaction. Try to make sure your friends are okay and your family's safe.
Oh, guys, that's super wholesome.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just like, everyone stay rad and get out. All right. Bailey's like, take care of your friends. Take care of yourself. But anyone?
You want me to do that over again?
No, that's fine. We're just gonna keep this all in. I'm just like, you have a super wholesome message. I'm just like, all right, see you later, suckers. But no, that's fine. Thanks for listening, guys, and see you on the next episode. Stay rad.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production.